Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is the newest addition to George Miller's iconic Mad Max franchise, and it, of course, tells the story of a young Furiosa and how she came to be known as the character we saw in Mad Max Fury Road that was played by Charlie Theron. Pretty simple plot. I mean, of course, usually Mad Max is not known for its amazing stories because it's usually known for other things. At least that's how I've always remembered the franchise. Now, notice how I said usually, because, when I think of seeing a Mad Max movie, I usually think of things like, or maybe some of, and maybe a little bit of,
oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Well, you get my point. But, the point is that action is what I remember Mad Max for. Non-stop, action-packed movie, little plot as is, but this movie actually has a story because there's a lot more going on here than with Furiosa than we knew. Because, don't get me wrong, Anya Taylor-Joy, she comes in later in the movie, much later in the movie. It's actually the kid Furiosa, who is played by Elijah Brown, that actually is the one who we see how Furiosa became as we know Furiosa as. She's the one who goes through all the mental trauma and everything. And then when Anya Taylor-Joy comes on screen, she becomes the Furiosa that we know from Mad Max Fury Road, kicking ass, kicking some more ass, putting bullets in everybody's head, and then when everybody's dead, she starts asking questions. I will say in the beginning, I was a bit skeptical about Anya Taylor-Joy playing Furiosa because she just didn't give off the vibe of being able to pull off this kind of action star. So, when Charlie Theron played her, she just left behind a mark. And, even though she's a late character in this later Mad Max franchise with Tom Hardy, she was just incredible. So, I was thinking, how is Anya Taylor-Joy going to pick up after that? Because she just doesn't give off the vibe of a hardcore action star. I think she has been in other action movies, but, Mad Max is just in my opinion, next level action. But when I saw her, the way she was pulling off that silent demeanor, asking questions later after she kills everybody, that was that is definitely Mad Max material right there. Because Mad Max, there really hardly is any talking. It's just all ass whoopings. And then cars, V8 engines, you hear everywhere. So, yes, Anya Taylor-Joy, she did amazing, in my opinion. Great job as Furiosa. Honestly, it's not just Anya Taylor-Joy that did amazing. Every character in this movie was incredible, especially Chris Hemsworth. He was incredible. It's finally nice to see him pull away from Mjolnir and Stormbreaker because he's an amazing actor and has such a versatile way of playing many different roles, and this is one of them. But, it seems like he wasn't even, there taking the serious. This was just Chris Hemsworth having fun, and it works amazing. He's just blowing shit up. He is going complete havoc, nothing but chaos. It's crazy. There's no mental thought to what he's doing, and it's just pure insanity, in my opinion. And I really loved it. It was crazy. He was just such an amazing villain, and even though, of course, Furiosa is trying to get her revenge against him, you still want to kind of root for him and just see him destroy more stuff as, Furiosa is getting her revenge. So, that's a pretty good villain there, that you actually want to see him do things as Furiosa is trying to kill him. So, that's an A+ there, in my opinion. Honestly, with what I was seeing here in this movie, and like I said, this movie had a lot more story to it than a Mad Max movie usually does. And the sense I was feeling with it, it feels like the Mad Max franchise is evolving in a way. That's the way I feel. Let me explain it like this. The best and most talented script writers out there right now are the ones who are world builders. And George Miller is one of them. He has been creating Mad Max since the 70s. So he's been working on this series for almost 50 years. And we look at this massive grand world and see the big picture and all the action, but then we also see little things. And these little things also would spark our curiosity. It makes us start thinking, like, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And that's how we start getting these spin-offs. Like Furiosa, of course. That's one spin-off there, because that's like the first character that's getting her own part in this franchise that, of course, isn't Max. And, well, I mean, as long with world building like this, that is the true nature of it, because being able to remember those little details along with the big picture is what makes seeing these worlds so incredible and what makes world building so amazing. Because I can guarantee you that anyone, big director out there who is a world builder like George Miller, will look at those tiny details and give us an incredible story with it, because they care about the characters they created, as long as they're the one directing it, of course. Because when you give those characters away to somebody else, like George Lucas giving Star Wars to Disney, they kind of ruin the stuff. But George Miller has been doing it for 50 years, and I'm pretty sure he's going to continue it until the very end. Though I am talking about how amazing the movie is and with the world building here, there are some things here that probably could have been done better. I mean, especially with the CGI part, because, I mean, there was a lot of moments here where there was noticeable CGI everywhere, and definitely green screen. And, I mean, that's just something you notice a lot nowadays. But the difference here is that this movie is more comparable, not with the other Mad Max movies, but with Fury Road itself. And the CGI in that movie, I mean, it just seemed a lot of the stuff that, of course, we knew was CGI looked real. Looked very real, but I mean, there were noticeable little pieces of CGI in Fury Road that were kind of like just cleanup moments, just to kind of like amplify certain things. But as in with Furiosa, CGI was noticeable, like in definitely a few different places here, and that just like kind of, when you see CGI and it's being used too much or being used for certain scenes where it's obviously noticeable, it just kind of takes some of the thrill out of the way for the movie. It's like, oh, well, that is fake as fuck. So, I mean, it just kind of takes that thrill, whereas, like, you're seeing something like, oh, that is awesome. I can't believe that's CGI right there. I mean, that's just, like, the one big difference when it comes to CGI. Either it's going to look stupid as fuck, or it's going to look amazing as fuck. That's just the downfall of CGI. There is no in-between when it comes to that. The movie was around 2.5 hours long. It felt like 2.5 hours as well. I mean, it wasn't one of those movies where, you sit in a movie for 2.5 hours and it feels like only an hour has passed because you're in so much enjoyment. But the thing is that this movie, I felt like it actually could have been a little bit longer. I mean, it takes over the course of several years of Furiosa's life, all the way up to when we get to the point with, Mad Max Fury Road. But the thing is that I felt like at certain moments they were like cutting it off, and there was, when we were getting into like more details about certain things to end a scene, they actually could have kept the scene going a little bit longer. But, of course they got to fit in within a budget, but that's why I say that the movie could have been a little bit longer. It could have been around 3 hours. Still would have been very, very enjoyable, and probably could have filled in a few holes here and there. But I do hear that George Miller is actually wanting to continue doing more Mad Max 2. There was actually something else he wanted to include along with Furiosa, so we may get more answers there as well. So that's cool there. But, I mean, runtime was at a perfect length. Just felt like there could have been more added. All in all, though, I enjoyed this movie. I'm giving Furiosa a B+. Although it's not getting an A rating from me, this was a great addition to the Mad Max franchise. Alright, well, if you guys have seen Furiosa, please comment here down below what your thoughts were on the movie. Also, what is your favorite movie of the Mad Max franchise? That's something I'd really like to know. Please comment that down below as well. Also, if you're a fan of movies, please check out my other reviews or reactions. And most of all, stay epic!